All right, so we said that to estimate the total cost, we integrate 3 components so that we can estimate accurately, right? So the first thing is you break down your whole project into levels and components. And then for each component, you want to consider what's the cost and what's the revenue. And for costs, you have different parts of cost you want to consider. Okay, and this list will tell you what are the typical list of cost and revenue you want to consider and you want to estimate. So the first item is capital investment. So that's the total input of total investment of a project. Okay, let's say if the government wants to spend 2 million on building a sidewalk, that 2 million is the capital investment. And second, what is the labor costs? So the workers you're going to use, the labor cost could be long-term, which will be fixed costs, or you want to hire some temporary workers, and that cost will be variable cost, right? And third, the material costs. So material costs will change along with what the productivity level. So it's gonna be variable costs. And fourth, what's the maintenance costs? Usually after you build something, you need to maintain it. You need to consider the whole life cycle of that project until that structure is disposed. So maintenance cost is also something you want to consider. 5 is the property taxes and insurance, right? You need to pay for the taxes, property taxes, and you need to pay for the insurance. That's another type of cost. And 6 is overhead costs, or we say indirect costs. That's to cover the administrative service, the accounting service, the management type of service. And 7 is the disposal costs. Disposal costs is whenever you're done with that structure, like you build a bridge or you build a house, you build a machine, say that, and then after its life cycle, the machine is outdated, it's not useful anymore, you want to just dispose it. Well, you cannot just leave it on the street and wait until the garbage truck to take it, right? That machine is a big chunk of metal. You need to dispose it correctly. Okay, so there must be some location or some service for you to dispose it, and the payment for that type of disposal service is called disposal costs. Okay, you might need somebody from a metal recycle company who can recycle this machine. So you might contact them, and then they need to send people out to your site and get this machine and deliver that back to their firm. So that fee is covered by the disposal costs. And 8 is revenues based on sales. So yes, you do the project, on one hand you need to consider the costs, on the other hand you need to consider the revenue, right? And 9 is the quality costs. Quality costs is something happen in the quality control of your product. Okay, if you are producing cell phones, you might have for 100 cell phones you produce, you might have maybe one of them has flaws. Okay, and that's bad quality, right? So your good quality rate is 99%, and 1% of your product is bad quality. So you want to first detect that bad quality stuff, you might have inspectors to randomly inspect your product and pick up the bad ones, so that you know what is the rate for you to have a bad quality cell phone. And second, right, so the payment for that inspector is included in the quality costs. And second, whenever you find the bad quality items, you want to improve your production line so that you can decrease that bad quality rate, right? So to improve your production line, that improvement needs money, and that money is covered by the quality costs as well. So quality cost is really something you need to consider. You're not just, produce something, you have to control the cost, and that control requires money. 10th is the market value. Well, market value is different than the disposal costs. Disposal cost means you want to throw it away, but you couldn't just throw it away for free. You need to pay somebody to pick it up. And market value is, well, maybe that machine is not useful for you, but it's still useful for other companies, right? Like a second-used car. The first owner might want a newer one or a better model, so that old car is not valuable for him. But still, it's a car, it still moves. So maybe as a student, you can buy it, so it's valuable for you. So the price you buy it is called market values or salvage value. That's the price you sell your old stuff to the second owner, okay? So try to distinguish the disposal costs and the market values. Okay, they're different. And one more thing I want to point out is the changes in one cost may change other costs. So see, we have these different types of numbers. So sometimes the change in one item will cause the change in another item. They are interrelated. For example, the new material. So if you buy some new material, the material cost will be different, okay? But that also can change your disposal costs and the quality costs. How? So if you change the material, maybe when you build the cell phone, the first generation, you use metal. Okay, you use glasses for the screen, and then in the second generation cell phone you might use plastic. So the disposal cost for metal, glasses, and plastic is gonna be different. Maybe for plastic is cheaper, I don't know, but that will change the disposal cost, right? Just because you use a different material for your product, for your cell phone. And also it will change the quality costs. Maybe producing or molding the plastic is much easier than the metal and the glasses. So that your the good quality rate is higher for using plastic. Okay, so that's why we say changing materials can change disposal cost and the quality costs. Well, this is very interesting, okay? So this is component 2. And component 3 is finally our estimating techniques, okay? So this is a list of the techniques we're going to learn in this chapter. Indexing, power sizing, learning curve, regression. Don't worry if you couldn't understand the terms right now. It's just a name. But now let's give it a pause and think about the 3 components. Okay, so we integrate the 3 components together so that we can have an accurate estimate of the total cost of the project. So the first component is you can break down your complicated projects into different levels, into different components. Each component will deliver an outcome, and all the outcome summed together will be your total project. Remember that house building? Okay, you have the wall, you have the window, you have the interior, you have the exterior. Okay, so, but for each component, you want to have a good estimate of the cost. How do you have that? You need to consider what type of costs are there, what type of revenue are there, right? And to consider that, you have to use the component number 2, the list, to screen out, okay, have I considered the labor costs? Have I considered the material cost? What's the number of that? So for each elements listed here, you have to have a good estimate. And then it comes the question, how can I have a good estimate for the labor cost, for the material cost, right? How could you have that? Then you need to use these different techniques, like indexing, like power sizing, like regression. You need to determine based on the condition. All right. Next, so before we learn each technique, here are something else we need to discuss. Like, well, we always talk about we want to have an accurate estimate, but how accurate is enough, right? Sometimes maybe a rough estimate is enough. Like you are talking about the big business with another business owner. You don't want to go to the details. You might just want to have a big picture of, well, to build this community, maybe it's like 1 million-ish stuff, right? Compared to build a building, just a building, not a subdivision. Maybe it's like let me see, 500,000-ish thing. So at this level of discussion, you only need to have a rough estimate, right? You don't need to have that detailed estimates. But when you want to, compare, okay, what type of subdivision you want to build? Subdivision like a Cambridge, subdivision like a Lake Serene, right? Subdivision like a Trace. So you want to, at that level, you want to have some detailed numbers, some level of accuracy, okay? So the accuracy level depends on, first, time and effort available. Like how much time you have to estimate the cost, and how much effort you can put into that cost estimating. And also it depends on how difficult it is to estimate that item, right? And the third, it depends on the methods and techniques you use. And the fourth, it depends on the qualification of the estimators, which means who is estimating it. If it's an experienced estimator, then the accuracy might be relatively high. Okay, so the accuracy depends on different things. And the source of the data for estimation are, from different places. The first resource you can use is your company's accounting records. You can check the historical data, right? And you can ask your accountant for those records. And the second resource you can use is other sources within the firm. Like you can ask other experienced people, like if they have built something similar before, they might have a better knowledge about like what's the cost. The third source might be outside of the firm, like the other company, your competitors, or your brother company. They have the similar project done last year. You can just ask for help from them. And the fourth is the research and development, which means if that estimating is really important for you, you can set up a research and development team focusing on that estimation. Well, that's more expensive to do that, but if that estimate is super important, okay,